Hello, and thanks for dropping by for episode 4 of Between Two Forces. I'm Jedi Johnson 22, the worst Padawan to ever step foot in the great halls of the Jedi Academy. Halls that I spent plenty of time mopping the floors because Yoda just can't take a joke. No sense of humor, that guy. And to my left, as always,
Darth Mugerson representing the dark side, and I didn't have an intro because that was awesome.
I got you. We got you.
Okay, all right.
So, hey, in this episode, we're going to talk about what's wrong with the Jedi. And you ask me, there's some things wrong with them. And the internet, as you know, the internet's full of Star Wars experts. Man, I'm glad I ain't one. And they're always giving their opinions about this topic. So tonight, you can add us to the mix. Me, one easily confused Jedi, and the sequel sympathizing Sith from South Texas, Darth Ram Rugensan. Are you ready, Dark One, who
I'm ready.
combined way too many words for anyone to pronounce his IG tag correctly? Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Absolutely.
All right, so let's get going. So the first thing we're going to talk about, actually the only thing really we're talking about tonight, is the problems with the
Problems with the
Jedi
Jedi.
are. So, like I said, the internet's full of people talking about this. So I came
Mhm.
up with a list, nothing mind blowing, nothing that is going to be like, oh, I never thought of that, because Star Wars people have thought of everything. So, but we're going to go through some and of mine, and then you're going to talk about yours. So, as usual, the Jedi, I'm a fly by the seat of my pants. I brought up this topic to Ruben, and then I did absolutely no homework, very little. But Ruben, being the Sith Lord, the Palpatine of this of Rennavision, I'm sure he did all the homework. He's going to come at us with lines and quotes and theories, and that's what we love about him. Whereas me, I'm kind of like Anakin climbing into a starfighter cockpit without a clue of what he's about to do. So we're just gonna go with it and make it happen. So first thing is no
No
attachments,
attachments.
partners. So this kind of goes to the philosophy of the Jedi not having any attachments, but I kind of narrowed it down to partners or
Hmm.
love interest, that kind of thing when I'm talking about partners.
Hmm.
And I just thought that was this when you look at what happened with Anakin, especially, which is what the story, Star Wars story is centered around. Was that a pro? Is that did that contribute to the fall of Anakin and the rise of Vader? The fact that he had to hide his relationships or relationship with
Right.
Padme. Um, do you think that contributed at all to the fall? You think it would have been better if Jedi could just have like military or anyone else? They have a
Hmm.
spouse, they do their deployments, they do their missions, they come home to the family. There's not these attachments.
Hmm. Well, George Lucas actually brought up a point when he was talking about attachments and love versus sex. He did say that Jedi's do have sex, you just can't fall in love. So, yes, I honestly think that it was a contributing factor for Anakin for his downfall because he was in love. He was absolutely in love, and if you can't express that in any shape, way, or form, and you can't let your friends know, I mean, one of the main reasons people ask me all the time, they're like, "Why do you convert to the? Why are you more Sith than Jedi?" I'm like, I love love. I've had several girlfriends in my life. I have my wife. I love her to death, and I've always been in that kind of relationship, and I could not imagine living a life without love or without having a partner. So living a monk's life is that's the only way we can actually see it. Living a
Right.
monk's life, I that's something I could not do. I couldn't personally do it.
So you think it added
Um,
to any frustration within the? I mean, because we don't know a lot about Obi-Wan's relationship with the Mandalorian queen. I forget her
oh
name.
yeah, yeah,
But he obviously he cared for her, and obviously he didn't have the tragic, he didn't go down that tragic line like Anakin did.
Right.
But I don't
But
know.
he
I just
he
thought that. Go ahead.
he does say a line in the Clone Wars where he says, "If you had asked me, I would have left." So,
Yeah, you're right.
you know,
Yeah.
he did have that pull. He just didn't pull the trigger on it. And if you honestly think about Obi-Wan's path, the first the first big fight we actually see him do against Darth Maul, you can't stand there and tell me he wasn't mad after he sees the death of Qui-Gon. You can't tell me that. I mean, he was attached to Qui-Gon Jinn, and seeing him literally stab through the chest through a lightsaber, and you can tell. I mean, he did a great job of expressing his anger. He was mad. So I can if he didn't have an attachment, maybe that would have been something different. He was like, "Oh, it's just another Jedi who fell." Then you wouldn't have been that mad. So he did have attachments. We know that. He was able to work through them because that's not part of the rules of a Jedi. So
So just attachments in general, and we're going to get to another specific attachment next,
mhm.
but just attachments in general, it's almost impossible, right? I mean,
You would think. I mean,
you would think. I mean, even whether you're attached to a partner or you're attached to your buddy or your work partner,
mhm,
or just attached
just
to anything,
anything. Yeah. I
it's
mean,
an impossibility.
you can't have property. I mean, you can't have any kind of like social situations to where you're just like, oh, I love you, and if you die, I will miss you. I mean, because that's a thing. They're not allowed to miss. They're not allowed to miss people after they're dead. That's just weird
Okay,
to
so let's
me.
go to the next one, which is no attachments family.
Family.
Now, this is a big one.
Yeah.
And this is something that I thought about. Didn't do a lot of research about it, but I did think about it.
Okay.
What if, and it actually brought up another question I'll just throw in, but what if
Mhm.
Shmi, I always mess up her name,
Okay.
Shmi,
You
Shmi,
said it right. It's me.
Shmi, what if Shmi was allowed to go with Anakin and whether or not she worked in a coffee shop on Coruscant, whatever. I mean, she wasn't in that hard place, that bad place that she was, which to me brought up another question, maybe for another day, is why didn't Padme just pay? I mean, Padme's a freaking queen of Naboo. She can't pay to just like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna pay this. I'm gonna pay the tab, if you will, for lack of a
Hmm.
better word I can't think of, on your mom so she can come with you. I mean, I guess we don't have Star Wars if that happens, but it's just like, why? But
Well,
anyway, back to my original question: attachments, family. Is that another silly philosophy within the Jedi that they don't want you worrying about your family, except they don't want you. They want your thoughts focused on the Force, meditation, blah blah blah. But
that's
it ended up being they ended up ending badly for Anakin
well,
anyway.
that's true. But this is something that I've actually given not a crazy amount of thought on, but it all depends on the family because you can't say, "Hey, your family's good. You can bring them over," but "Hey, your family sucks. You need to stay away from them." They have to treat both sides equally. So, and everybody has a black sheep in their family. Everybody's always one of those that they want something or they do something that you're just I don't agree with that. So the Jedi cutting them off from the family just so they don't influence, I can almost understand it, even though I don't agree with it. I'm very family oriented, but I can almost understand it because
But don't you
you
think
don't.
that there needs to be some common sense applied to it? Like, yeah, if your family is doing well, like it's doing well, and they don't want to go, they want to stay where they are. But in Shmi's situation, she was in a bad spot, and to leave her there, maybe she didn't want to go because we talked about before. She had a mission that's not, that we're only now starting to see in some novels about,
Mhm,
freeing slaves. So she kind of had a mission as well. But
mhm,
I don't know. I just think that, as we think about Star Wars like we do, is this,
yeah.
man, this would have just solved a lot of problems if they would have just taken Shmi with her. But you have this attachments thing, no attachments, which, since while I'm talking about, I don't know if you've ever read what is it, Jedi Lost, about Dooku. Have
Mhm,
you read that?
yeah.
So even though he went to the dark side, I mean, he was still kind of following this
Probably.
attachment thing because he sent Asajj to kill his sister.
Right.
Am I remembering that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
So
mean, there's still like because he didn't want that weakness of you know what I mean because he
mhm,
cared for his sister. I think underneath it all, he cared for his sister, even though he's going to have her killed, and that caring was a weakness, and he had to get rid of it.
right. I, and like I said, it's not something that they really flesh out to the reason why. They want you focused. They want you trained. Is That's the main part that you can actually take from it. They don't want you thinking about something else. They want you literally focused 100% on being a good Jedi and on the light side of the Force. So I wish there was more of a, and there might be that I just haven't read, which I've read a lot. There might be more of a reason why, but that's the only reason that's the only way that I see it is they just want you focused
And
because
I've read
you have this power, right? You have this incredible power that you need to be able to harness it and understand it and know what it means. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
so no weekends with the family,
No,
all
no
busy, all
barbecues.
busy.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, no family reunions.
none for you.
You know, and another thing I see, and I'm just going to throw this in as an oh by the way, because
Hmm.
when I was going through like the internet trying to look at some of the what people thought were weaknesses, and, I came across this a lot: the Jedi taking children away from their family, basically forcing them into this culture or philosophy of
Hmm.
the Jedi, the Force. I never got that that sense that they were forcing children away from the family. That
Hmm.
I mean, either maybe the family wanted, wanted this for their child, maybe the child wanted this for themselves, but I never got the sense that they were sneaking in the windows at night and kidnapping children. Did you ever get that
I
sense? Because it's out there. People think that.
I've never got the sense of that, but I did get the sense of the parents didn't have a choice, and the main reason I think they didn't have a choice was the Sith don't give a damn. They don't care. They're not going to care if your child is force attuned. They're not going to care about the parents. So they're being a force sensitive child and having your blood tested and see that you have a metachlorian count. That's all almost like would be like a public record. And the Sith would be like, okay, I want that
Well,
kid, kill the parents, kill everybody else.
okay,
So
I'm not talking about Sith though. I'm talking about Jedi, the good
I
guys.
know, but the Jedi are doing that to prevent that the family from getting hurt
Oh,
or
they're being
injured.
preemptive.
'Cause
Okay.
yeah, the Sith will just take the kid. So the Jedi tell the parents, hey, and this is again my opinion. The Jedi they'll be like, look,
No, that's why we
your
have you here because I didn't consider that.
your child is a target. You have a big target on your house, and if you keep this kid here, you can die, your family can die,
So they
everybody that you know.
terrorize them. They scare the death. They scare them to death into giving up their children.
I again, I there's no like I've seen them having, like, little kids, but you don't see, like, them sneaking them out in the middle of the night, but
Yeah.
I don't think they have an opinion or a say-so in the matter. I think the Jedi are the consider themselves a be all end all of all rules and
Well, man, we could go on for this forever, but I feel like
uh,
I may not get the opportunity to say this again. So why was Yoda willing to let Anakin not be trained and Shush get away, go back if the Sith, if he was going to be a target for the Sith?
okay, you have to pass the test in order to be trained anyway. So if you already have fear in your heart, you're already down that path because fear leads to all the things down the road, right? You see what I'm saying? If because
I see what you're saying, but I don't see how just like so is the alternative to just kill the
no,
kid so nobody gets him or I mean because if you put him back out there, fear or not, you're giving the dark side an asset
mhm.
that they can develop into a strong force user.
Right, but if the Jedi and I'm gonna say this, and I when I decided to do this show, I didn't want to bring up the novels very much. I wanted to be more of a casual moviegoer. They watched a little bit of Clone Wars, things like that. But I have to bring this up because in the Revenge of the Sith novel, they talk about how the Jedi were fearful of the dark side. Like they feared it. They didn't want it anywhere near them. So you having a kid who already is fearful. Your thoughts dwell on your mother. That was a big thing. He's like, you're afraid of losing her. That fear will lead to anger, lead to hate, lead to suffering. So he's already down that path. He's already started that path. So the Jedi, not necessarily going to cut him off, but maybe just not training him so that way he can cut himself off from the Force. So that way he's a
So
not
maybe
an
keep him
enemy.
close to them, but not train him as a Jedi. Keep an eye
Right.
on him, but not
Because
train him as a Jedi.
Because I think it says somewhere that if you're force attuned and you don't use it, you lose it. It's like you just forget. It's like you have the ability, but if you don't train on it or you don't know
Well,
about
that
it,
didn't happen to Ray.
uh, Ray's a different story because
Okay, never mind. Never mind.
her
Sorry,
mind got
sorry, I even went down there.
she's a different story
Another
because
show. Another show. All right. Okay.
I can't wait for
Maybe
that show.
maybe write that down. Write that down. We'll come back to it. All
Ray's
right.
a
So
different.
let's go to the next one because we've already spent more
Oh
time on
wow.
mine than I thought we would. So let's go to the next one. So again, we're talking about the problems with the Jedi, and another one I came up with was no accountability. They're above the law. So
Mm,
after I came up with this, I decided to maybe go back and tweak it a little bit. No
mm,
accountability to the Republic, within the Republic.
mm,
Now, obviously, if you read, even if you've watched Clone Wars or read some of the novels, they are held accountable to other systems or planets or whatever when they go out and get
mm.
caught doing whatever, sneaking around.
Right.
So I decided to kind of reel this in to just the uh, I say rebellion, but it really wasn't rebellion yet. The
The Republic.
Republic. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yes, you could say that. Yeah.
Told you I don't prepare for these things.
No, it's
Okay.
okay.
Republic.
The one thing that when I first heard the failure of the Jedi, when that first came out, the person I actually heard it from was Dave Filoni, and when he said it, that the Jedi failed and he did all that, like, and I want to say it was in like the early 2000s when I heard this interview, and I was like, he was absolutely correct. The Jedi did fail. The one thing that he mentioned was that the Jedi became too political, that they were doing things that they shouldn't be involved in. They should not be involved in politics. They should be only focused on the will of the Force and maintaining that. That is something that he brought up, and that blew my mind because I had never thought about that when I saw the prequels. Is that they did become political, and so the fact that they are, I mean, Mace Windu describes them as being keepers of the peace, not soldiers. I would say that I don't think they're above the law. I just don't think they don't answer to anybody except them themselves. It's just like having a bad like police force, just a horrible police force that just they can go around do whatever they want and there's just no internal affairs or no accountability.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so they were like that. I mean, there was. I think if you
Yeah.
even if you watch the Clone Wars when Ahsoka got accused of blowing up something. I haven't watched it forever, but she got accused of blowing up something or something,
Mm.
and right before she left the Order.
Oh yeah.
But it
She
was
got
the other Jedi that did it. Whose name I can't remember.
it's okay.
Who is it?
Um
That's why you're here.
oh
Tell me these names that I can't remember.
just okay, but she went to jail, right? I mean, that's the bottom
She
line.
went to
She went to
Jedi
jail.
jail. She didn't go
Yes.
to. Yeah,
She went to Jedi jail, but
that's kind of my point. Is they have their own bubbleized
yes.
justice.
Right.
It's not. She didn't go to Republic jail. She went to
Right.
Jedi jail.
And she should have, in my opinion, if she was accused
But
of that.
it was civilians, if I remember right. If anyone died, I can't remember. Nobody dies in Star Wars. But I mean, if I remember right, and correct me if I'm wrong, she blew up something. She destroyed something. I can't remember if people were hurt or whatever. But if people were hurt, I believe it was civilians. So she should be
Yes,
accountable to the
she should be.
Republic. But yet the
Sh-
Jedi were like, no, we got this. We're going to
Yeah,
keep it
this is one of
inside our bubble.
right. This is one of ours. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
okay. I have a note here about the Jedi becoming militarized, but you kind of touched on that with your
Mm,
comment earlier.
yeah.
All right, let's go to the next one. Again, understanding kind of depends on interpretation. So do you understand what I mean by this? Because I don't know if I can explain what I mean by this, but it just seems like, and we kind of talked about it a little bit in the last show,
Mhm.
with Kylo kind of getting mixed signals between some of his mentorship,
Mhm.
was understanding the Force just kind of depends on who you listen to. There is
Yeah.
no really there's no real gospel to it, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
There's nothing really. I mean, there's prophecies that
Right.
most Force users in the Skywalker era don't even really pay attention to. In fact,
Right.
they kind of chastise Qui-Gon for even giving them any merit, right?
Mhm. Right.
So that was another thing I just thought was very odd. I mean, we kind of accept it as, Yoda is this all wise, hey, if anyone knows the Force, it's Yoda. But Yoda made some bad calls throughout
Yeah.
the throughout Clone Wars and even the prequels, I think, if I remember right. But
Mhm.
so I don't know. I
Uh,
just think that was another thing I thought of, was just it just depends on who you listen to as to what the Force is telling you.
yeah, and it all really also depends on how they say it. I mean, even Ben Kenobi was like, "Well, that's my view, right? That's your father died," and that was like he literally said that. He was like, "No, dude, you could have literally told Luke, 'Hey, your father is Darth Vader.'" He's like, "No,
And
that's
that's
not my
just it's
interpretation of it. I mean, it's yeah. I mean,
But
it's
that's a
the way they
recipe
say
for
it,
disaster, really, because I'm sure you've
right?
seen those like little social experiments where you have people lined up and one person will start and whisper a secret to the next person, and then so
Hmm.
on. They'll work their way down the chain. And then by the
Hmm.
time it gets to the end person, it's something completely different, something crazy.
Yeah, and that's
But
another
it's kind of
thing.
like that. I mean, it's just,
Yeah, and you got to remember something. George, when he created Star Wars, he literally said, I don't want you to see paper. I don't want there is no paper in this universe. So if you think about it not having a set piece of paper or something that is taught, curriculum taught from thousands of years ago, passed from Padawan, I mean from master to Padawan, that Padawan becomes a master to Padawan, keeps going down all through the hundreds and hundreds of years, that would get changed. So the Jedi that are taught in the prequels are not the same stuff that they're taught at the beginning.
I'd say
So,
you have the holocrons, that are supposed
mhm,
to contain Jedi history, Jedi lessons learned, et cetera, et
yeah,
cetera. But even those are just
little bits and
people
pieces.
putting
Yeah,
in their inputs based on their experiences and
right,
their interpretations of what's going on. There's nothing,
right. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean,
solid, I guess.
yeah, it does depend on interpretation from master to Padawan. So you're right. I agree with
Okay,
that one.
I'll throw another one in there that I don't have an overlay for. But do you think the Jedi do you think it's wrong for them to use mind tricks? Are they preying on the weak-minded? Is it a bad? It's
Absolutely.
bad.
It's absolutely now. If you want to mind trick a stormtrooper, first order trooper, somebody that that literally works for the opposing, if it works for the empire, works for anything like that, absolutely. But if you think about what Qui-Gon did, what Qui-Gon Jinn tried to do with Watto. Okay, here's Watto. He's the owner of a shop. He literally he needs to feed. He needs to feed his people. He needs to put a roof over their head. He was going to give him 20,000 Republic Dactaries, which means
He's a
zero.
civilian.
Yeah,
He's a
he's just
civilian.
he means nothing to him. So had that worked, he would have literally had all this credits that was worthless, and he lost product. I mean, that always rubbed me the wrong way, and people were like, "Oh, they could have just mind tricked him." Mind tricking is if you don't literally if you don't think what I do, now you do.
Did
That's
we
one of
ever see? I don't think we did. Did we ever see Yoda mind trick anybody? I don't think we do. Do we?
I in the Clone Wars, I think, but that's only like
Does he?
I think that's only like God, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, we
Maybe,
won't, we won't
maybe,
waste time on it. I
yeah,
just I can't
yeah,
remember him doing it, so I
yeah.
just I didn't think so. So
Mhm,
let's keep. We're going to go. The last thing I'm going to say, and then we're going to go to yours, which yours are more focused on some plot holes, I think, with
mhm,
Jedi powers. Uh, so all of these things that we've discussed with Jedi philosophy and some of the things we think aren't quite right or maybe caused some. So, do you agree that, and I've seen this on the internet too, so I'm not trying to take credit for this. Do you believe that the Jedi create evil, that they create Sith?
I think that
that they're responsible for creating Sith?
I think that they try not to, but yet ultimately they do. I mean, ultimately they create these people that want that they give here's this power, and that's all you can get when there's people out there like Anakin that want more power. Because once you have that certain ability, you're gonna want more. That's natural. Anybody would want that. Like if you gave somebody the ability to fly, everybody wants to fly like Superman. Like, oh, well, can I see through walls? Well, you're flying. It's just one of those things that it would come natural for people to be like, okay, I have this, but now I want this. So the Jedi creating Sith or creating dark side users, yes, I think ultimately that's what they're doing, and
Not
that's
intentionally, but
not intentionally.
because of
No,
the
absolutely
right.
not. But I think that's one of the things that Luke, when he's like, it's time for the Jedi to end. I think that's one thing he must realize is
Okay.
the Jedi don't have it perfectly. They try really hard, but I don't think they have it perfectly.
Okay. So I do want to add one more thing
Okay.
before we do move on, because I meant to ask this earlier and I forgot. And like I said, I may not get another chance. We were talking about the Jedi becoming militarized, actually giving military
Mhm.
ranks, generals, a lot of them,
Right.
um, and getting sucked into the clone wars, whereas they should be keepers of peace, advisors, maybe that kind of
Right.
thing. Do you think if the separatist had not been led by Dooku, a Sith, a former Jedi, a Sith, who was they believed to be the lead Sith, or do you think the Jedi would have been absorbed into that situation, or would they have stayed not been militarized?
I think they would have still been the same because if you look at
One second.
Dooku, if you look at Dooku, he doesn't. I mean, in the movies, you don't really see him doing the orders. He leads that to um, Poggle the Lesser. Poggle is in charge of his guys, in charge of the battle droids, and then he has those guys on his council that they're literally the ones in charge of they're doing whatever. He's just kind of like the glue that holds them all together. So I don't think I just think they were all answering to him and to Sidious, and they were all that's who they were going for. I don't
Palpatine was orchestrating it. He kind of
right,
sucked them into it as part of
right.
his plan. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on, since we've spent. Man, we always say we're going to try to make these things shorter, don't we?
Yeah,
But we never do. All right,
we
and
do.
that's okay. So we're going to move on to yours, which problems with the Jedi. Again, more plot hole, may be related, but this was one of your. Whoops, nope, that one.
Yes.
Force healing. I don't know. We're going to talk about it in two parts, I think. If I understood what you want to
Um,
do, force healing, Anakin sacrifice. So let's.
well, I've seen this question come up a lot, and people are like it's a plot hole. If force healing was a thing, why didn't Anakin kill Padme? Why didn't uh, Obi-Wan cure Qui-Gon Jinn, or why didn't Obi-Wan cure Padme? I've heard this like 100 times, and every time I try to start a conversation on Facebook, they're just like, "No, you're wrong," and I'm like, "Just listen to me for a second, because a lot of people aren't understanding what the Jedi truly stand for." And I'm not saying I'm not saying I'm right 100% of the time, but I deep dive into force healing, and the first question I always ask, and I'm going to ask you this, is do you think
Oh boy.
no, now I don't
I
want you
remember
to
the
answer.
last time you asked me questions. I had to tread very lightly, so I'm
Well, okay,
very.
and I don't want you to answer this question quickly, and this question is going to sound dumb as hell, but do you think a Jedi would use force heal on someone? Because force
Well,
healing,
now, if you go back to, they're not supposed to have attachments, and if when you pass on, it's just a circle of life going
mm,
back to be a part of the Force, then by their own teachings, they probably shouldn't.
exactly, that's one of the reasons that I always tell people, I'm like, Jedis are not allowed to have attachments. Now, when I thought about this question, when somebody posted it on Facebook, I sat there and I was like, okay, wait a minute. Jedis don't have hospitals. It's not like they have a place to go. They're not doctors, so they don't have a building for the people to show up at. Okay, so it would have to be in the moment, the will of the force. Okay, I can get around that. But the second point that I had is, oh, Anakin says a line in the movie. He says, "I know there are things about the Force the Jedi are not telling me." And that is 100% true, because in the realm of the Force, you have the light side and the dark side. And they only teach the light. They don't teach the dark. So there are things that they don't teach. It's like the Doctor Strange books. You can read these books, but don't read those books. So if that is true, then that means that there is a curriculum. That is something that they have to, okay, we're going to teach this, but who decides that? Well, anybody would be like, well, the Jedi Council should decide on what is taught, what is not taught. Which leads me to my next point. There's a line in episode 3 which says, "Rejoice for those that transform into the Force. Mourn them, do not miss them, do not. Attachment leads to jealousy, the shadow of greed," that is. And if you analyze that sentence, that you're not allowed to mourn anybody, you can't miss them, and when they die, you're supposed to rejoice and be happy. Okay, zero attachments. And who says that? Well, Yoda says that. And who is he on the Jedi Council? Well, he's the top guy. And he's been training for 800 years. So they're not, even if they were trained on how to force heal, it's not something that they're going to be allowed to do. It's not. I mean, it's literally not, because Yoda would have known, if you give someone too much force energy, you can die, which we saw in The Rise of Skywalker. Kylo Ren gave all his force energy to save Rey, and he died. So
What?
Yoda has. You don't remember that?
No, I'm just playing.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh Jesus Christ! I was about to say Jedi go watch a movie, but
What is
it,
this Rise of Skywalker again? I need to see that.
you need to watch it again. But ultimately, I don't. y- Part of me wants to say that Jedi's are not taught force heal, and the other part of me is saying that even if they were, they wouldn't be allowed to use it. It would be like a forbidden thing. So it's not a plot hole. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's a plot hole." It's really not. If you think about the Jedi's point of view of force healing and their ability or knowledge of being able to use it.
So then, force healing wouldn't be like a mutant power. I mean, it would be something any Jedi should be able to learn to do if
Right.
given the right instruction.
Right. Right. And the reason I think Rey knew it is because she had the original Jedi text. She had access to things that nobody else had, because they weren't allowed to see these papers of the original Jedi text back in the day. Even though Yoda saw them, he's like, he didn't like them. He was like, they weren't page turners. Well, they taught her some things. So, but that does bring up a different point. Force healing does, because now there are some people that think that Obi-Wan healed Luke in A New Hope, and there are two schools of thought. Some people will say, like, no, he didn't force heal Luke. Luke got knocked out by the Tusken Raider, and Obi-Wan walked up there and kind of woke him up. Okay, if you don't think that he force healed him, fine, great, wonderful. Because if you read the novel never says anything about force healing. I get that, but there are some people now that think that Obi-Wan did force heal Luke, because Obi-Wan walks up to Luke, checks his pulse, and then puts his hands on his head. Which, if you ask any doctor, what would be the point of that? There would be no point to put your hand
Yeah.
right here.
It's not like he has a fever. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be like, does he have a fever? No, but a lot of people today think, well, yeah, Obi-Wan force healed Luke. Now, the only reason I bring this up is because the Obi-Wan Kenobi show is about to come up, and a lot of people are like, when I've told people that I don't think Force users or Jedi would force heal anybody, I was like, well, Obi-Wan Kenobi force healed Luke. Now, again, this is my opinion. I don't know this for a fact. I'm pretty sure. Hopefully, the show tells me, and I might change my opinion after the show comes out. But I honestly think that in the show, we're going to see Obi-Wan not be a Jedi. So him stepping away from that Jedi persona and becoming Ben Kenobi, this guy who's uh, not necessarily cut himself off from the Force, but doesn't use it. So that way we see the fact that when he approaches Luke, he's not technically a Jedi. He's retired. He's like, what's the guy from the
You
High
don't think he
Republic?
still has this bag of tricks? I
I
mean,
think he has it, but it's like the Ahsoka Tano thing. She's not a Jedi. She can use it, but she's not a Jedi.
okay.
So
Well,
it,
that's
it,
semantics, isn't it? I mean,
it is, but being a Jedi is, it's all in your brain.
so you
If
don't think one of the so I mean maybe instead of healing him, which I never thought he was healing him either,
watch it
but
again. Watch it again.
But
Like,
well, I mean, but can't he do? Because Jedi can like feel. I don't know how to describe
mhm,
their force presence. I mean, obviously, you could tell if he had passed on or if he, you know what I mean. He can
mhm,
feel. We hear, like even Darth Vader felt the presence of Obi-Wan,
right.
etc. So, is it possible that Obi-Wan is just while he's not checking his pulse, he is kind of like, okay, he's still with me. I
Okay.
can still feel his force presence or whatever.
Think about it like this: when Grogu healed, what's his name, Grief Karga, when he healed his arm, he put his hand on his arm. When Rey healed the snake, she put her hand on the snake. When Ben healed Rey, he put his hand on her stomach. When Obi-Wan, what you can assume that Luke was unconscious due to a concussion. You can assume that. You're looking at him. Why would he
I
touch him
assume
in his
that.
head? You walk over him and he can force heal him by doing this. He's fixing the problem. He's giving a little bit of force energy. Now, if he's retired, he's not a Jedi like Porter Engle. I couldn't think of the name. Like Porter Engle is. He still has his bag of tricks. He's just not a technically a Jedi because he's cut himself off from the Force. And I don't want people, especially the viewers here, I don't want them to be like, well, Obi-Wan's not acting like a Jedi in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Well, I don't think he's gonna be. I mean,
Okay.
he's
So
running
you're
around.
talking more about the series than that moment with Luke
Well,
then.
again, that moment, we don't actually see his lightsaber until I want to say the Sandcrawler when they see the Jawas. Like we don't even see it in his hut, his lightsaber. So he's walking around, doesn't have his lightsaber on him. And I mean, he literally made a sound, and all the Tusken Raiders ran off. So when I had thought about Force healing, that was one moment I thought I was like, well, was Obi-Wan Kenobi a Jedi at that moment? And you can a Jedi is just in your mind. It's if you're
Yeah, it's a
willing to
label,
follow that
really,
path.
right?
Yeah, that's all it really is. Like 1 second you can be like, okay, I'm gonna be a Jedi, and then I say, you know what, I retired. But then you can always come back, like Porter Engle did. So I just I want to put that out. Now I could be wrong. I could be 100% wrong. Where
No, I don't know
he's
if you're wrong. I
he's
think
a
it's a
Jedi.
matter of, it's just a discussion of Star Wars because I
Yeah,
never thought of that before you just mentioned it.
yeah,
I never thought that Ben was healing him.
mhm.
However, to play devil's advocate a little bit, if Luke was on the verge of death, if Obi-Wan, who had never healed anybody in his life, was going to pull that trick out of his bag and heal somebody, it would probably be Luke
That would
because
be the
he's the
moment to do
chosen
it.
one, right?
Yeah. Well, no, Anakin's the chosen one.
No, see,
No,
I actually, that's another story. I actually disagree with that, but okay.
okay.
Well, I don't know if I do. I don't know. I
We
get
can talk about that
confused.
in the next episode.
Yeah, I get confused.
Yeah, but Obi-Wan does think he is the chosen one because he even mentions that in the Rebel show. He
Yeah,
does say
yeah,
he's the
yeah,
chosen. So in Obi-Wan's opinion, Luke could be the chosen one, even though Georgia says something different. But
yeah.
if
Now
you're going to use that trick,
I really want to go down that rabbit hole, but we are running
yeah,
out of
we are
time.
really
So
out of time.
that's another thing to write down. So
Yeah,
maybe future episode, who is the chosen one?
who is the chosen one?
I think it's
That'd be a great episode.
you either got two choices, multiple choice. All right, so let's go to your last. I think you said your last one was Jedi Way is doomed to fail. So talk about that.
Jedi Way is doomed to fail.
That
I
is what you did. You did say that, right?
I I don't remember
Or
texting
did
that.
you say Luke said that?
I don't remember texting
Not
you that,
Luke.
to be
Luke.
honest. Lucas.
Well, you. Well, I mean,
Um,
you actually talked about it earlier when Luke was saying that you said Luke said that the Jedi way needed to end. The
yes.
Jedi needed to end.
Okay.
So
Uh,
then,
I I
if that's true, then they were doomed to fail from the beginning, whether or not anybody knew it or
yeah.
not.
And now I remember the conversation because it's night here. Okay, I'm sorry. No, I think
I'm
they
drunk,
are.
so it's all right.
Oh, I'm
No,
not drinking.
I'm
Uh,
not.
no, I
I'm
think
wanting
they
candy, but
I think they were partly doomed to fail only because they are extremists out of one end of a spectrum, just like the Sith are. The Sith are extremists in the other end of the spectrum. And if you think about the balance of the Force and it being on a scale going back and forth, if one side is outpowering the other in the Jedi way, if there is no Sith, it literally does this the other way. So they are doomed to fail because they don't understand that you need both sides to go forward. You can't be fearful of the dark side when you need it for balance. That's why I was bringing up if the Jedi are doomed to fail.
So I guess what I'm getting out of what you just said is if the Jedi's if their mission goal is to eliminate the Sith, you
Mm-hmm.
know, Force users of the dark power, dark Force,
Mm-hmm.
then in a way they're working themselves out of a job because without the dark side, there is no Jedi.
Well, don't confuse the dark side with the Sith. The Sith needed to be eliminated. That they needed to be done because
Okay, so
they manipulate the Force so
well,
much that they throw the Force off balance.
right. So yeah, you're going to have dark and you're going to have light, but I'm talking
Right.
about the Jedi. So the Jedi are working themselves out of a job because without the Sith, there's no need for
That,
Jedi
that,
because
well,
you have dark and light and then dotted line. You have Jedi and
yeah,
Sith
Sith. Yeah, if you think of like a
as tools
spectrum,
of.
it's like here's the dark and light, but this is the Jedi and this is the Sith. It's just like
Well, the Jedi and
very
the Sith
extremist.
are tools of their respective
Right.
side of the Force, right?
Right. So in a way, they could be. I could see what you're talking about, that they would get themselves out of a job. But I mean, there's always turmoil, there's always chaos, there's always war, and it doesn't have to involve the Sith.
Well, now
So
we're getting back to the Jedi being militarized.
exactly. So, and I think
How the hell did
the
that?
Sith.
How did we get back to
Well,
that?
because the Sith were extinct for a millennia. So
Yeah.
how do they get involved to helping others? Is if they're in the militarized thing. Like they have to have a purpose, and that goes all full circle. And now we're back to the beginning again.
I'm confused.
It's okay.
All right, I'm going to get rid of that because we're going around in circles.
Yeah, we
I
are.
think Luke believed that the Jedi needed to go away. I guess, and I never really thought about it much until we started
Hmm.
thinking about topics for the show.
Right.
If Luke is saying, in my mind, if Luke's saying the Jedi needs to go away, well, that means he doesn't either he doesn't believe in the Jedi philosophy, the Jedi
Hmm.
way, or he's saying the Sith are gone. In his, if he's thinking the Sith are gone, then there's no need for the Jedi.
I think he doesn't believe in the philosophy anymore. Like he got to the point where he's just like it's flawed, and he understands it's flawed. Just like George did, just like Dave Filoni did. He understands the Jedi philosophy is flawed, and there needs to be a better way, and he can't fix it. And that's why he's just like the Jedi need to end. The Force needs to do whatever the Force wants to do because all it wants is balance. Because the Force, to be honest, the Force didn't create the Jedi. They just powered the Jedi. Didn't They didn't want them to have lightsabers and running around. That the Force doesn't want constant war. The Force just wants balance. That's it. And you can have balance without weapons.
Well said.
Hmm.
Well said. All right, so let's. We're at 45. Well, no, we're not really at 45. I always get confused. Yeah, I'm just
I
confused
know.
coming and going.
It's like 40.
All right, so thanks again. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks again for watching Between Two Forces, episode 4. I can't believe we're on 4 already.
I know.
Be sure to give us some likes, give us some comments, let us know what you want to discuss. Subscribe to Rennavision, where we are always motivated to keep you entertained with fun and informative information. Last words, buddy.
Yes, everybody, thank you.
Yes. All right.
Happy 45 years of Star Wars. I wish I had a 45 shirt, but happy 45 years Star Wars,
Oh,
39 years
wow.
of Jedi.
Congratulations, everybody.
Yeah.
Congratulations. All right. Hey, check us out. Well, this is going to air on Saturday, so check us out tomorrow, Sunday at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we're talking Kenobi. All right, that's
Kenobi.
all, probably maybe all we're talking that day. So, anyway, hey, thanks for watching. Take it easy.
May the Force be with you.